In June 2022, 23-year-old Rushane Jett Barnett was at the home of his 31-year-old cousin, Kemesha Wright, where she also ran a shop in Cocoa Peace, North Clarendon, Jamaica. At some point, two men arrived and ordered items. He served them and collected the payments for the items. According to him, Wright yanked the money from him and said not to serve any of her customers. Barnett said because his cousin did this in the presence of the customers, he felt disrespected. Claiming further humiliation, he claimed Wright also flicked water in his face. Barnett had been living at Kemesha's residence at the time, and in his opinion, following the incident, he observed that her attitude towards him changed and her children distanced themselves from him. Between midnight and 1 a.m. on June 21, 2022, Barnett said he was at the house when Kemesha told him to lock up the premises. According to the man, he responded that he heard a vehicle outside, but she looked and said she saw nothing. Rushane told law enforcement that he looked at her and she looked at him as if she saw that he was, quote, preeing her. In Jamaica, pre is a common slang which can be used in several ways. To pre is to take a long, deliberate look or a careful, focused listen. Conversely, when someone says pre, it is not a request, it is a gentle command that the listener take notice of something or someone new, important, or significant. As in, pre this. Barnett told the court he observed the mother taking something from the dresser, though he did not see what the item was at the time. He thought it was a scissors. Hey y'all, have you hit that subscribe button already? If you have not, be sure to do that and turn on the notification bell. We have made it to episode 100. This is not including the update videos, but as far as episodes go, this is 100. While it is disheartening that these stories even occur, I'd like to thank you all for the support thus far in encouraging me to pay tribute to these young lives taken too soon and bring awareness to issues plaguing our communities. Be sure to hit the subscribe button if you have not. What are you waiting for? We are on our road to 5,000. The man stated he had a knife in his possession and proceeded to attack Wright. He claimed to see two of her children rushing towards the dresser as they began throwing items at him. His response? To also attack them and fatally wound them. Rushane told law enforcement that Kemesha's eldest daughter, Kemesha, reached for a pair of scissors in another room as he rushed after her. In the process, she fell and he then fatally wounded her as well. The victims were identified as 31-year-old Kemesha Wright, 15-year-old Kemesha Smith, 12-year-old Shirley Smith, 5-year-old Rafaela Smith, and 23-month-old Keyshawn Henry Jr. According to an autopsy report, their causes of death were listed as hemorrhage and shock, in addition to multiple sharp force injuries. Horrifically, Wright had 48 incised wounds in the region of her neck, chest, abdomen, and limbs. The youngest victim, Keyshawn Jr., had 11 incised wounds, inclusive of a wound to the neck, which the doctor described as a cutthroat injury. Shirley had 22 incised wounds and 2 scratches, also with a cutthroat wound to the neck. Rafaela received 5 incised wounds and a gaping wound to the upper anterior of her neck. Kemesha had 9 incised wounds and 4 stab wounds. In total, the 5 family members received 95 incised wounds to their bodies. After carrying out such a malicious attack, Rushane threw his shorts and the knife near a hacker tree. According to documents, hours prior to the senseless confrontation, one of Barnett's other cousins claimed to have seen him with a knife and heard a 23-year-old saying he was going to tell his brother that he was going to end lives that night. That same cousin later identified the bloodied shorts and knife as those of which he had seen in Rushane's possession prior to the incident. Later the same day, a relative of Kemesha's discovered the slain family after they hadn't heard from the mother. Barnett was immediately identified as a person of interest. Following the gruesome incident, 23-year-old Rushane Barnett fled the area to Wilson Run in Trelawney, where he was apprehended on June 22nd. After confessing to police, the man was formally charged and subsequently remanded based on his statement.
One when I'm Rafi, she always call me and say, Mama, you alright? Mama, you alright? And I could hear little kiss in the background and call Mama. Mama. Oh God. She know, the bigger one now, she no really talk. She just lie down in her fear little room. She no come out. Plumby know if me call Plumby. Plumby will say, Mama, you alright. Me have to say, Plumby, you can call me, you know, man. But them not really love call. But the little one, man, Rafi, man, oh, Jesus. You know, every morning he WhatsApp me, call me, man. The only time she don't call me is when she don't have no service on her phone. Oh, Jehovah God.
It's very sad. It's very sad for know, because it's somebody who we know grew up in this community, and she's a very nice, jovial person, and lose her like that, it's not nice.
Not
and even
long
the kids,
after his arrest,
and we have
a
mothers
video
and
was
grandmothers
released of four justices
really hurting,
of the
even
peace
the children at school
and
really hurting
Rushane
about
during a
it.
medical examination. It was quickly condemned by the Lay Magistrates Association of Jamaica.
By all indications, it seems to be a domestic matter.
Okay. The person of interest is a relative, can you say?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
We are here to protect your rights. We are here to listen to you to ensure that any claims you have about your rights being breached are addressed.
Definitely. It's just that what we report still, like whenever I talk to the police and the police them about my waste of my stuff, none of them now they listen to me.
And this pain is not a pain that is new since you have been in lockup. You have had this pain before?
Yeah, before.
The Lay Magistrate Association of Jamaica is distancing itself from the act. The video shows 3 men and a woman who identified themselves as justices of the peace and were subsequently present to protect the rights of Barnett. However, according to the LMAJ press release,
Barnett
recording and
also
releasing
accused
a
the
video
police
was in
of
direct
assault.
contradiction of the JP's role. Attorney at law and Justice of the Peace, Peter Champagny, condemns the actions.
It is most unfortunate that there was a leak of this video. In fact, I go further. There should never have been any video in the first instance.
When asked if he had anything to say, the 23-year-old brought up his ill treatment while in custody. He says he's being constantly threatened and beaten by officers and is seeking medical attention. He said to the presiding judge, "Me no know if I the crime me commit, a beer chat them a chat me, licking a head back, them a tell me how them will me with baton and them something there." As he was being transported out of the court, Barnett was met with animosity by citizens who jeered as he passed.
He appeared eager to deflect responsibility for the offense, claiming McKnight put Obia on him, and he appeared deceitful and superficially charming, all while lacking empathy and remorse for his actions. Barnett had also stated that his punishment for the senseless incident should be that he be given oral medication, placed in a single cell to serve a 1-year sentence, and then released. His defense attorney, Tamika Harris, told the judge that despite the findings of the evaluation, she intended to have further discussion with the psychiatrist in relation to Rushane's mental health. At his initial court appearance, the prosecution served him a copy of a death penalty notice which had been filed in the Supreme Court ahead of the case. The court was also informed that the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions would be seeking the death penalty. Such a penalty had not been applied in Jamaica for more than 30 years. On July 28th, when these details were revealed to the public during a court hearing, Rushane Barnett pleaded guilty for his heinous actions. On July 31st, a joint funeral for Wright and her children was held at Stuart Hall Auditorium. Hundreds of mourners, some who had never even met the family, attended as the horrific incident had left communities reeling. The funeral director, Trevor Witter, announced that only the family was allowed to view the bodies and that no photographs should be captured at the request of relatives. Raphael Smith, the father of the 3 girls, was visibly broken as the harsh reality set in while he attended the funeral. Keyshawn Henry Sr., father of the youngest victim, was visibly upset after being barred and had to call in fellow Jamaica Defense Force personnel for assistance with entry. Both fathers were seen emotionally embracing one another. Member of Parliament for Clarendon North Central, Robert Nesta Morgan, recalled that Kemesha inquired about how to get to Canada so she could accumulate money to further support her children. He said prior to her passing, she contacted him, introduced herself as a mother of 4 and student at Distinction College nearing the end of a practical nursing course, followed by requesting assistance in obtaining a farm work card. He instructed her to go to the office and sign up and said they discuss it further. The service lasted almost 6 hours and saw tributes from family, friends, and politicians from all sides of the divide. The interment took place at the Sutton Cemetery. Kemesha and her youngest child were buried together. Some attendees were anxious to view the bodies of the family, while members of the security forces struggled to keep them orderly at the graveside. Lavina Miller, a community member, said that she was familiar with both Kemesha and Rushane, and she told media sources that the man previously wounded a male family member of his with a knife and expressed how she wished that Wright had not granted him any grace. A week following the senseless incident, the Wright family was faced with more heartbreak as their patriarch, 81-year-old James Wright, was hospitalized and subsequently passed away. Relatives said it was of a broken heart. Confined to his hospital bed, Winsome Wright, aunt of Kemesha Wright, said the elderly man spent his last days mourning his granddaughter and great-grandchildren.
Last 6 summers, my father died after my father took it to heart. Yes, I'm going to have a next funeral. You ever talk about the situation?
In mid-September, Barnett was charged with assaulting a police officer and possession of contraband arising from a confrontation with cops at the Halfway Tree lockup. Senior Superintendent Marlon Nisbeth did not reveal the other items seized. At a sentencing hearing on September 22nd, Director of Public Prosecutions, Paula Llewellyn, argued that Rushane should get life in prison and should be required to serve 60 years and 9 months before being eligible for parole. She stated that the crime was one of the worst her office had ever seen in Jamaica. Following Rushane's guilty plea, the DP's sentence was withdrawn as is usual protocol. The defense attorney asked the judge to give the man a 10% reduction on the sentence, claiming that her client had saved the court's time and resources. In a victim impact statement, Keyshawn Sr. said he would always be haunted by the sound of his son crying for him as he left for work after spending his second Father's Day with the baby. He had left Wright and her 4 children at the house in Cocoa Peace to return to work at the Jamaica Defense Force headquarters in St. Andrews just hours prior. His son was crying so much upon his departure that he video called him via his mother when he arrived at work. Henry described the hours, minutes, and seconds following receiving that heart-wrenching call as being filled with denial on his part. He described the funeral as the worst day of his life. The heartbroken father said he cried profusely through anger. Henry stated it was difficult to look at them in the caskets, and initially he ran from the auditorium before finding the strength to return and view them. As eager family and community members waited for sentencing, the judge said he needed more time to consider the law and evidence provided before handing down a sentence. On October 20th, in the Home Circuit Court, Judge Justice Leighton Pusey cited the brutal nature of the crime before sentencing Rushane Barnett to 5 concurrent life sentences, ordering that he serve at least 61 years and 8 months before being eligible for parole. He will be 84 years if he lives to see that day.
The attack was contemplated ahead of time, that the accused told someone that he was going to kill some people. And also in his caution statement, he indicated that he came to the conclusion that Miss Wright was looking at him away, and so therefore he acted.
It was also noted that the man breached the trust of his relatives and did not show remorse for his actions. Justice Pusey said the fatality was shocking even in a country such as Jamaica, where fatality is prevalent.
Fifthly, his lack of remorse was commented on both by the psychiatrist and the social worker who interviewed him. In the social inquiry report, his claim to disbelief upon contemplation of this behavior flies in the face of his generally nonchalant disposition while being interviewed, as well as his expressed frustration in being, quote, tired of the questions. All told, his mannerism was not indicative of one who possessed a full appreciation of the magnitude of his act and the devastation caused, and does not appear to be remorseful concerning the same.
While it was usual for the court to deduct between 15 and 50% of a convict's sentence following a guilty plea, the judge said the Criminal Justice and Administration Act would not allow for such in Barnett's case based on the nature of the crime.
Noting the mitigating factors in the case, Justice Pusey said the circumstances do not call for Barnett to be given a discount in sentencing despite his early guilty plea.
There was ample compelling evidence pointing to the accused. He was a person of interest almost immediately after the bodies were found. Clothing and a knife were discarded near the scene, and even before forensic tests could link him to the event, he was, as I say, a person of interest. And he was the one who had been living with that family. Secondly, the brutal nature of the offense means that any discount would bring a sentence that this court would give below what I would think would be a fair and appropriate sentence. And in those circumstances, I would not give a discount. And finally, the third reason is that the fact that the death penalty is no longer being considered is a significant benefit for this accused.
Outside the courthouse, a large banner bearing the images of Kemesha Wright and her 4 children, memories the family are now left with.
I just want to thank everyone for everything they has done for me and my family, and God blessings and mercy to continue to guide me and protect me a long life journey. My daughter taking me in, feeding, clothing was so good to him, and that this is the treatment that he gave my daughter. So he has to pay for it. He has to pay for it.
Right now, he should get at least 200.
But 61 years and 8 months, he's 23 years old. He won't be out until he's 84 years old. We can live with that.
A handful of Cocoa Peace residents who gathered at this grocery shop in the community did their chores while they listened as the presiding judge handed down the sentence on Rushane Barnett. The people were not satisfied with the 61 years, 8-month sentence.
61 years and get, well, right now, couldn't say them couldn't give me 100, you know. I just would make him peel away still, you know.
And you heard today that he got 61 years.
Only 61?
The thought that Barnett could be a free man, albeit an old man in the very distant future, doesn't sit well with them.
I would give him 150 years. He shouldn't be seen no more light again. Yes.
And you feel with 60 years he may come back around?
Yes, because he's pretty young. Yes, he's 23 years. And when you add that, he's just 80. Yes, so it might come back.
My sister follow me. And right now, I'm disappointed. I'm not lie. I'm not wake. Once my pinch me right now for me wake up. This come like show me I watch.
Months on after the grisly killings, pictures of the victims and pieces of black cloth still hang in parts of the community, serving as constant reminders of the ordeal.
Him stay forever in there. Him wicked. I could have me and my children, you know. I 5 children me have. I could have me and my children. Him stay forever in there. Forever and ever. Amen.
Him should never dead there, sir. Him should never dead there, so nobody talk about him. Him should have last way. I want to him hanging for come back. Mr. Government, bringing back hanging. Shock them in the shocking chair. We're tired.
May the family and friends of Kemesha Wright, Keyshawn Henry Jr., Kemanda Shirley and Rafaela Smith find solace in the happy memories, and may their souls rest in perpetual peace. Thank you.